legal specs, I am delighted to welcome you to today's informative and enriching session. My name is Yoshita Manral and I'll be your host for this bootcamp. Legal Specs is a well-established platform committed to empowering the next generation of legal professionals. Our professionally curated certificate courses, expert-led webinars, and skill-based learning programs attempt to bridge the critical gap between law school study and real-world legal practice. Containing our commitment to provide practical and current legal insights, today's session focuses on an increasingly important talent in every law student and professional's toolkit, legal article writing. We are here for day one of a two-day bootcamp on how to write a legal article, a practical learning initiative. It's now my Dr. Ria Roy Mammen, a dedicated legal academic and researcher with a profound commitment to social justice and climate-conscious legal education. Dr. Roy currently serves as a postdoctoral fellow at the Vollenhoven Institute for Law, Governance and Society at Leiden University in the Netherlands. She is also the co-founder of Just Focus Research Institute, an initiative aimed at fostering inclusive and critical legal discourse. Previously, Dr. Roy held the position of Senior Scale Assistant Professor at Ramya College of Law in Bangalore, where she was instrumental in advancing research and pedagogy in legal education. Her expertise has been recognized through her roles as a research consultant for the UNDP Global Project in collaboration with the National Law School of India University and as a part-time consultant for National Women's Commission Project, contributing to significant national research initiatives. Her academic journey includes a PhD in law from the National Law School of India University, Bangalore, where she also completed her LLM. Dr. Roy's research interests encompass access to justice, street lawing, and integrating climate-conscious thinking into legal curriculum. It's a privilege to have someone of her caliber and vision guide us through this session. Please join me in warmly welcoming Dr. Ria Roy. And before we dive in, a quick reminder for everyone, enrollments are now open for our certificate course on advancing legal research methodology. Don't miss this chance to deepen your research skill with a 20% discount currently available. Before we proceed, just a few housekeeping points. First, kindly keep your microphones on mute during the session to avoid any background disturbance. And if you have any questions during the session, please feel to type them in the chat box. We'll take them up during the Q&A segment at the end. Now, without any further delay, let's warmly welcome Dr. Ria to take the session forward. The floor is yours, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Just so that I know whom I'm talking to, are you all students of law, or do we have everybody's student of law? Are you all undergraduate students of law? I think I should be more specific. Anyone
yes,
from
students are undergraduate students.
Undergraduate. Are you? If any of you are in a position to switch on the video, it would be really nice, because what I intend to do through here is an interactive session. And then I really want to listen to you as well. Yeah? So if you are in a position to switch on your video, please go ahead. That'll be really nice. And yes, so without delay, we can get to our business, yeah? Now tell me on this before I start off. How many of you do your assignments in college? Or done an assignment in college? You can use emojis. Yes, I've got some hands raised. Yoshita, can you tell me if there's anyone who's not got their hands raised? I'm guessing most of you have done. Anyone who's not done? Okay, now everybody else, but anyone who's not done an assignment?
Most of the students have done it.
It's a very tricky space, huh? What can they say? if they've done it themselves or not, or we're not coming to that, right? So you've handled assignment in colleges on a regular basis, right? At least say you have 5 subjects in a semester. Every 5 subjects would have an assignment. No matter what institute you are in, you would have done one or the other assignment. Now, my next question, what did you do with those assignments once you're done writing those assignments? And the internals are done. What happened to those assignments? Okay, I think Yoshit, I can only see your face, so I will have to ask you.
Sure, ma'am. Actually, firstly, I'll do a bit research on the assignments. I'll Google it. I'll search from some websites like Live Law, Bar and Bench, etc. And then I'll try to note it down, the important pointers, and then we'll frame the answer accordingly.
But yeah, my question is, what happens after your internals are done? Someone, I've got 2 answers here, left it behind, forgot that I have even done it. That's a very smart answer. And then, they basically go through plagiarism and the teachers are strict. Okay. All right. Well, but that's your assignment, right? Something has happened. Yeah. So now the question here is, what can we potentially do with these assignments? You've put in some kind of effort. I mean, I'm not, of course, even if it's copy paste, you are putting in effort. Yes, publish it. So what do we do with these assignments is the question, right? So now let's look at, that's the focus of today's topic. At today and tomorrow's lecture is going to focus on to understand what are we going to do with these assignments that you don't take it and leave it as it is. Of course, have them, some of us assignments would focus on specific subject areas. It might be a theoretical paper, but not necessarily it needs to stay that way. But there are ways in which you can convert these assignments to something that is fruitful and that you can reflect in your resume as well. Because let me tell you something, any place that you look at, no matter what you work on or how you look at it, what happens there is, the way you write is the way, or is one of the first ways in which you communicate to the outside world what you are, what you're personally capable of, right? So now, invariably from our time to what your time, the competition is increased. And by the time you would come out, your competition is just going to increase as well. Now, how you showcase that you are a person with these skills, you're a person who's able to take work on your own, you're a person who's capable of doing things in a specific way. One of the beautiful ways that can be communicated is having your articles out. Now, what does it talk about, getting it published? You would have different kind of journals. I mean, I'll come to all of that. But what does it mean? You're trying to tell them, see, I had an opinion. I have done some basic research. Now, when I say research, keep that word aside. We have to figure out what it means. Then we're trying to tell them, I've translated it into some kind of language the public can understand. Yes? So are you with me on this? That you're going to also remember what I want you to do. Did you do the homework I told you? They'll ask me what homework. Do you have an assignment topic with you? I have 2 new faces and they look a bit clueless. Aruni, did I pronounce your name right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, do you have a topic, assignment area, any of your assignment with you?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes. Okay. All of you are going to note down one of your favorite assignment that you've done. Okay. And you will list out why you like that assignment and what is that you did in that assignment. Keep it ready because I want that when we start discussing this. Okay? I think 1 minute is good enough. Yeah, 1 is good enough, yes. Yeah, let me know once you're done. You can take it down on a piece of paper. Yes. Okay. So what we're going to do now is, I want 4-5 volunteers who's going to answer my questions as we go on discussing, because I know there are 78 of you if I see it. I don't know how many are viewing on. But what we're going to take is we're going to take these examples and see how are we going to use research methodology, what are we going to do with these assignments, that we translate them into an article. So that tomorrow when you come back for discussion, we're going to see, do we have space to tweak these, that we can think about sending it out somewhere during the process. Okay? Hope you're all with me. And I think meanwhile I'll have some majority showcases. Barha, yeah, 100% publish them, absolutely. Yeah, Noel tweeted a bit, and of course, Adishta, yes. All right. So I'm going to take you through my slides, and then we start. All right. You're all familiar with this? Yes? Someone's raised their hand. Can someone tell me the story behind this?
I'm not familiar with the story, but I get the message that he's trying to convey.
Okay. But anyone has a background story? Yes, different perspective. But there's a background story to this elephant. They were blindfolded, yes. Yes, okay. We have legal speaking. Anyone? Venkatesh? Yeah. It was an experiment done. Barha, do you want to go a bit more and do you want to share the story? Could you unmute and share the story? No compulsion though.
Good evening, ma'am. Good evening, everybody. I hope you're all doing well. So, as far as I know, I think I've studied in my sociology class. There was this experiment done for a social topic regarding perspective and human nature. There was a group of people and they were given an inanimate object and they were blindfolded and they were told to feel it, touch it, sense it, smell it, and then draw out a perspective what they think it is. Then I don't remember everything about the experiment, to be honest, but at the very end they concluded that every person or every individual person has a different perspective regarding of what information you feed them or how they perceive a typical situation or typical inanimate object, whatever that may be. So that's what I remember.
And you remember it well. Very good.
Thank you. It was way back in my first semester, I guess. So
wow.
Really.
You do have a good memory. This is the beauty of having a story done in class, huh?
Yeah.
Because this is a context with, thank you so much, Barha, but this is what happens with law as well. Because, as I do have some of the chat responses also rightly stating it. So all of them were blindfolded, left and asked to experiment with the elephant to see what it was. So all of them share different perspective of the elephant. Now what happened is, when they all come together without seeing the elephant, the discussion that comes, imagine 5 lawyers by 6 lawyers. And you know how lawyers are, right? We would go to any extent to prove that our point is right. So I've seen a snake and that's about it. We don't care if the other person's perspective was different. So what happened here as well was that when they let this out for a discussion, they ended up in an argument. They went out, to any extent to prove that, what I saw is a snake, what I saw is a tree, and whatever it is. Then ultimately they came back to see that they all saw different parts of the same stuff, but how they experienced it was different. This is the same way law functions, and more particularly research functions, right? Because when you as an individual is working on a certain topic, you collect information based on your experience and your understanding of that atmosphere, right? Say, for example, you have an assignment. Let's say, I'm presuming all of you have done tort law paper. I mean, that's a first year paper, right? So I'll take tort law, for example. Now, presuming that all of you have done tort law and all of you have been given assignment on negligence. You have a couple of ways of doing it. Now, when all your topic on negligence and your teacher tells you anyone who has a novel idea would get that additional marks for, creativity, let's say. Now, when you take up negligence and you want to look at, it doesn't make sense that you simply take out the ingredients for negligence. You'd start looking for things that comes within the purview of negligence. Some of you would go a little more step forward to say, okay, how has court seen negligence now? Probably some of you here curious would try to look at, okay, can I see negligence in a specific area, maybe more particularly on a subject matter. So negligence as seen in a civil law country. Some of you would say, okay, I will take up negligence in the context of climate change. Then I'll say, I'm going to take up negligence in a different context. Got it? And then you would see in, for example, or let me take this one more step forward. Negligence, or in terms of you would want to say, okay, I'm going to take medical negligence in the case. Now, when you take a medical negligence, you would see that courts view it differently, right? Yes, apart from legal civics cases, you have different perspectives that's drawn in. Now, when you come out and you want to, and the teacher tells you, see, listen, now when you submit an answer, 2 marks is set aside for your analysis about negligence, which means draw some kind of input from your side. So what do? You would take up some cases, yes? Because in Indian tort law, we don't have a statute. We go by what the courts say. Then you would try to see, okay, in negligence, what was someone would have tried to understand strict and absolute liability, how its implication was, or, you try to look at different areas that when a person, maybe few of you who are really keen again, would want to define negligence to say now courts don't see it in the same parameters they saw it 70 years back. Naturally, what happens is when 10 of you sit together and come up with different definitions, the natural question as a lawyer you will have is, how did you come down to that conclusion? How did you decide that this is a definition that you've drawn? Of course, I use Google. You would have used ChatGPT. You would have used Google. You would have used Heen Online. You would have used Manupatra. You would have used Live Law for latest judgments. You would have used all of these resources. Everyone uses those resources. How are you making yours any different? This is what happens when you write an article also. You want to convert them and make it readable for the public because you think that your idea or thought about negligence makes a difference. Then the fundamental question is, how did you come down to a conclusion to say that, apart from copy-pasting the definition of negligence from different case laws, you as a person, let's say we have 77 people, right? Including myself. Okay, let's say 75 of you. How did you come down to that context of 75 different concepts? Now, how that works to all of us to set the context in place to say that while it's taking the example of an elephant. While I selected cases based on these criteria, relied on these articles, I have come down to this conclusion. Now, the process through which you justify your arguments, right? To say that you did not randomly choose your sources, you did not randomly pick those cases and come down to a conclusion is what we call as research methodology. And in your article, and how you convert your assignment to an article worth publishing is also the way you engage with methodology. Are you with me? So methodology is like this. Is it there? It's there. But it's not there? It's not there. Okay, tell me this. How do you decide which movie, now, how do you go out for movies with your friends? Anyone who doesn't do that? Everybody does that, right? Okay. How do you decide what, okay, of course, your criteria would be the most trending movie, but there is no new release and you still want to, take a break. How do you decide what movie to watch? Reviews, perfect, reviews. Yes. Reviews, rating based on genre, yes. 10 of you decide. Some of your interests would be different. Yes, interest. So you see there are factors that's story. There are factors that's taken into consideration. Some of you would like love stories. Some of you would like action movies. Some of you would look at some of the stars. But now you have to make sure all of you go to a movie. Right? So you have various factors when you want to choose a movie itself. That of the 10 criteria, because by now itself in the chat, I've got around 10 pointers that you will take into consideration when you want to go for a movie. Recommendation, if you don't like the actor, you might not end up going for it. A recommendation, genre, storyline, actors, casting, directors, language. You have 7 to 10 criteria while choosing a movie. This similarly when it comes to when you want to translate your work to a worthwhile writing. And that is where that translation element to communicate your assignment with your analysis to a larger crowd saying, see, I have an opinion to put across to you. And I have come down to that opinion based on certain facts and certain methodologies, which I think would be nice that you go through. Got it? That is what we look at, what we call as research methodology. So I'm just going to give you an introduction into this and then we're going to go into the article, because once I give you this introduction and we look at this, today's task for you to see, I have a task for you to come back with tomorrow, right? So the entire concept of research methodology is that you follow a systematic process to come down to a conclusion about your argument. This will involve an approach, procedure, tool, your ideology, objective, question that is predefined. Are you with me? Okay? Predefined to conduct your research and come out with a reliable, valid source of conclusion. So if you have an assignment, let's say I'm just going to take up negligence itself. If your teacher has given you a topic on negligence, you do not have to stop with accumulating information about negligence. That definitely is important. So, if you have, say, 7-page assignment to submit, I'm just taking an average. 7-page assignment to submit, you can have 3 pages that sets out the definition, components, the earlier decisions of negligence. But you would also have to look at and always take one step forward to see how has the court viewed negligence now. Is there a difference in the way negligence is viewed in medical cases compared to the others? In motor vehicle cases compared to the others? In consumer cases compared to medical cases? In medical cases versus, why is there a disparity? Or how is the negligence in criminal law different from tort law? For which, formulating that question, what is the tool or procedure you're going to follow? Because the moment you establish that and you start thinking, you are creating something of your own ideology. And you're trying to communicate to a larger crowd to say that, see, have you noticed a difference that not all medical cases fall within the ambit of negligence? Even if it prima facie can look like a case of negligence. Are you with me? Yeah. So how you make that transition is what is called as research methodology. Now, why is it important? This is all that we gave an idea about. The first question here is about ensuring a validity and reliability of your information. Now, when you're talking about submitting an assignment just within your classroom, it's a different story, right? It's a complete different story to look at, when you are considering, when you're giving it for an internal assessment compared to an external paper. And it's not a lot of work. That's what research methodology helps you with. Once you have a grip over it and you treat it with research methodology, the assignment element automatically translates to as an article element. Because there, once you've accumulated the material, what you're trying to tell them is, my material or the content that I've chosen is reliable because I've taken due care. Second most important here is the objectivity element of it. What is the objectivity element? See, it's also possible that all of us, the moment the teacher gives us an assignment, remember it's one of the 5 assignments that you're going to get. Let's not expect all the sincerity in it. Don't try. Choose one a semester. Don't try to convert all subjects into an article. Choose one assignment a semester, which you believe that you can touch upon, right? Where you are bringing in not just your biased opinion. You're allowed to have your bias, because when you read, naturally you have your opinion. But why should anyone buy your opinion? You could have a review about a movie, right? You could say, I didn't like the movie because of this actor. But why would someone buy your opinion? Because you will bring in factors to say that based on multiple grounds. Are you with me? So when you say, I don't like the movie because of this actor, it's not just because I don't like the actor. You would substantiate it to say, remember, the filmography wasn't good. They could have used this scene there. The storyline was not good. So when you are setting out an objective, rather than blindly saying that you don't like something, you bring an objective element to minimize your bias, so that the person who hears your argument is able to understand or believe that, yes, this is not something blatantly said, but there are factors that I must look into when I talk about it. I'm sure by now all of you have argued with your parents. No? You would all said, no, right to privacy, freedom of movement, freedom of dress, freedom of speech, I don't know, whatever freedom, you would have made up your freedom also. But you would have also not just, do you think your parents would have blindly taken freedom of privacy and then, right to privacy, and they would have taken an argument? No. You would have gone ahead to give them pointers as to why it's important that your privacy is respected. That you communicate it with that level of objectivity. Then the third element, which, somewhere it varies depending on the type of methodology that you adopt, is about bringing a generality and replicability to say that you might be choosing a specific area But this specific area can be applied to other areas as well. Now, it's not, don't go for that hard and fast rule here right now. You can stop with objectivity and validation and evidence-based and proceed with writing. Now, when you want to go into advanced writing, is when you can start considering, okay, if I'm going to write on medical negligence, can I apply the same principle when it comes to motor vehicle? Is there a common factor that I can take into consideration? Now, all of this together, right? The translation from a plain assignment to a matter worth publishing is done by tweeting that article using research methodology. Because when you do an assignment, you don't generally go into these factors. And interestingly, when you actually go through various elements of methodology, you would see that if you can bifurcate a little of work from your side, you would be able to get the heads in. Okay? Is it too much? Is it going above your head? Are you still with me, all of you? Yes? Perfect. Now remember, all of you have taken a topic, right? Yes, I'm hoping all of you have taken a topic. Can a couple of you please post a topic, your assignment topic that you've already done, something you're done with, in the chat box? I love this topic. I don't know, handicraft. Wait, I'm just... Yeah, let me see. Okay, handicraft heritage, exploring the impact of GI harnessing competition law to compact misleading everything. Disha, which year are you in?
Ma'am, I'm currently now fourth year completed.
Very nice. Was this the assignment topic?
Yeah, ma'am. I have a research topic and assignment. I have actually gone to that place which is nearby my house.
Did you
So
publish
I have
this?
went and researched. No, ma'am, I haven't yet.
Oh my God, this is something you totally should consider. I think this is something we're going to take one example. Yes, Venkatesh, structural policy induced drivers of non-performing assets in agricultural lending, a comparative analysis of pre and post farm loan waiver period in India. Which year, Venkatesh?
I'm currently pursuing my third year.
And this was your assignment in land loss or?
No, not technically land laws. It's basically a subtopic in the Surface I Act. Basically the banking laws. Yes, with regards to DRT
you done
and
with this assignment?
Yeah, currently in progress.
Okay. This
Yes.
also, I mean, I think all of this, okay, the role of judiciary in protecting fundamental rights. I will repeat replicability and generability. Yes. Supreme Court bias towards women in marriage laws. Kautsav and role of judiciary, uniform civil code, should it apply throughout India? Barha, are you done with this assignment, Barha? Okay, because I would want you to come back. Okay, I'm going to take some of these topics. I'm going to take some of the things that's already done. For example, let's take Supreme Court bias towards women in marriage laws. Kautsav, are you done with this topic? No, so it's in process. Did the teacher tell you what the teacher is expecting from you while looking at where Supreme Court has decided in favor of honey scam, a case study of affiliate fraud, deceptive marketing, corporate exploitation? Wow, I love all your topics. Strengthening the idea of women and empowerment, differential, radical, and liberal perception of feminism. Oh my God, these are all just amazing assignment topics and all topics that are worth publishing as far as from the peripheral reading. So I'm going to take Kaustav's topic, for example, because that's something that I believe all of us can relate to. looking at how Supreme Court bias is, for example, when you look at marriage laws. For example, when you look at 498A, you have an inherent protection for women. And most of the time, when you take marriage laws, or if you say a divorce, the provisions included when the divorce is initiated by a woman, what happens is generally lawyers would incorporate provisions that's not directly related to marriage itself. That's not directly an issue in that current marriage. So say dowry prohibition, domestic violence, cruelty, all of these provisions are actually gender biased, right? So though recently Supreme Court has been careful about how they view these laws with decisions, trying to tell that unless there's a prima facie case, you cannot take an action against men. There is still inherent bias when it comes to marriage laws, which we cannot deny there is a misuse. So what let's say Kautsav, you're trying to do is evaluate how Supreme Court has seen this. Where has Supreme Court made a transition? Yes, please tell me. Please unmute and speak. Just 1 second, Sriyanshu. It's okay that we go with interactive, right? I understand it's live stream, but usually if you could just ask him if it's okay that we go, because the idea that you get the point. Yeah, Kautal, can you unmute and speak?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. This is a case of, this is somewhere I have researched it. Ma'am, it was Reddy, Mr. Reddy versus Mrs. Reddy. I forgot the initial names, but it was Mr. Reddy and Mrs. Reddy. Mr. Reddy seeked divorce under the ground of cruelty, the section 13(2) of Hindu Marriage Act. Supreme Court in its petition rejected the plea and said that Mr. Reddy had been suffering through this cruelty from his wife for 10 years. So under section 23 gets in action, and under section 23 you conveyation of act. There is something where you actually you say it's okay that even if it's illegal action is illegal, but in law's eye you have accepted the whatever is happening. So in the process, right, Supreme Court rejected the plea. On the very same case, and there is the same case of Mr. Chakravarti versus some Mrs. Sen. In that case, it was almost similar circumstances, but it was the woman who was pleading for the divorce, and she was granted divorce, and the husband was held under section 498A of this domestic violence.
Interesting. So can I also give you, I'm sure you're familiar with the 2018 judgment of the Supreme Court, which in fact laid down certain pointers, as guidelines while taking up matter of 498A. Right? 2018-19 judgment, which actually made a shift in the way 498A must be viewed. Now, just taking one step forward in your assignment. Now, when you're working on your assignment, we're going to see how do we convert this into an article here. Are you with me? Okay, all of you are familiar with 498A, right? We're taking this topic because all of you are familiar with it. Now, with 498A in place, what is the prima facie case that goes? It says that it's a non-bailable offense, okay? With a level of punishment and everything that goes to say that, in fact, people in the central government employment could be impacted simply because that there is a charge against them under 490 because it's a matter of moral turpitude. Now, with the increasing case of 498A, 2018, the Supreme Court came up with guidelines to state that before taking a matter under 498A, the police must be prima facie convinced that there is a substantial case, which means there should be a level of cruelty that's proven. Now, while you're doing an assignment on this, what is that as a scholar you must be taking into consideration? Okay? What we have to look out here is, what is that first and foremost? What is that I want to understand through my assignment or the article that I'm going to look at? I want to see how 498A has, or the way Supreme Court has viewed marriage laws. In particularly, you can look at different provisions of law. So it could be 498A, Dowry Prohibition Act. It could be how cruelty is defined, or it can be even the way who is initiating the divorce petition. Are you with me? Because generally when you look at law, the ones who initiate the case plays a victim card. Either they are the petitioners. Now who's initiating? Has the court taken that into consideration? Once you set your objective to understand what is that I want to establish or find out through my research, you have identified area of study. Now, when you look at an assignment, you're trying to see Supreme Court's view. You're going to say, okay, has Supreme Court been biased? But there should be some kind of benchmark on it. So then the element of, Kaustubh, please go ahead.
If I would get a chance, I am trying to find those cases. I have a list of at least 15 to 20 cases where the circumstances for both the man and both the female were almost same. But Supreme Court had a bias on when it was considering a woman, but not for a man. When the same petition, the same divorce was granted in the case of a woman, but not for the man. And the circumstances and eventually everything was same. Perhaps in cases, it was more, even in cases, there were sometimes the circumstances supported the men more to get the divorce. But eventually the plea was rejected, giving certain reasons. Obviously, you need to give some rationale behind the judgment. Ratio decidency, as you say. They give some type of ratio decidency to go on.
Okay, so what we can do is, in this circumstance, I'm going to take something from his side to say, now I'm going to write an assignment or a paper which looks at mentality or in specific divorce grounds, how courts have viewed it. Now my argument here would be, I've selected a topic. So how do I come out to that specific selection? Yes. How I've come down to that selection becomes very important, because if you look at all of your topics here, you are streamlined it in specific ways. For example, the way you look at each of your topics, there's something or a tinge of your objective that is highlighted in that topic itself. It's not a broad subject matter that you're looking at. You want to find a conclusion or a solution to a problem that you have been, personally impacted, or something that was influenced your thought, like how Kaushik has talked about similar circumstances, similar scenario, but judgments are different. Now, naturally, as a lawyer, your curiosity is what made the distinction apart from a gender bias. Now, that's a curiosity that you are trying to find out through your research. That curiosity element, that gap that is there that you want to cover up, is how you come down to selecting an area. And the journey that you take from finding the curiosity topic to finding an answer to that curiosity. So what happened is what you call as a research journey, right? Once you've identified an area, like say, for example, now what happens when you take a broad topic, like if UCC has to be applied the whole of India, now what is it you're trying to show there? UCC in personal laws. Do you have specific factors that you want to consider in that case? Or like say, for example, Sharmila's impact of leadership styles of an organization performance. Now, what is a problem that you want to solve while looking at these areas, right? So that is what you have to take care, even if it's for an assignment or for a paper that you choose. When you talk about it, you identify a curiosity element topic. Now, let's say, for example, sometimes, certain universities would give you a topic which is broad. Then it's about establishing a conceptual understanding. Now, once you know you're going to research on something and you want to publish an article, what your process is this? What is within your hand is only the first part of it. Got it? Research and writing is what is exclusively in your hand. Yes. So what happens there is how you select your topic, how do you conduct a literature review, and the key element of what is a methodology that you do, and you translate them to something that is readable. Once you've done your draft element, is when it goes for your peer submission, it's out of your hand. Then it's about the review. And you would interestingly see that most of the time when it comes back with the review questions, more than the subject matter, though the question may look like subject matter, people are more concerned to understand how did you come down to this conclusion? What, the ratio density that we were talking about, the rationale? What was your rationale when you came down to this conclusion? What were the factors you relied upon? What was the concept of research problem? How did you formulate the research question? How did you prove the hypothesis? How did you get your answers right? Ultimately, what they want to know is, how did you come down to this conclusion? Are you with me? Once you can take care of that part, rest of it is something technical. Got it? Now we're going to go a bit more. Now let me presume that all of you have this topic in hand, okay? Once you have a topic in hand, keep this in mind. I want you to take a screenshot of this. Keep this in mind, because tomorrow you're going to come back with this structure. Your assignment topic that you've already done. You have, Kautsar, he has raised an opinion as to why is there that bias, right? Now you have an opinion there, you have a question that's in your mind. What is causing that bias? What were the factors that this judgment made a difference on? So what is he first going to rely on? What was the rationale that the judges have relied upon before coming to the conclusion, right? You will list that out. Once you list that out, your topic, what is that you have a problem in that area? The first one you're going to list out is, what is that you have a problem in that area? You have to know this is not the way it should proceed. 498 cannot be defined in this way. Or it cannot be taken, like for example, in case of misleading advertisement, for example. How would you define something to me as misleading? You cannot categorize it as a misleading. Or what is that you understand as a problem there? You will list that out. The second thing that you would try to do is, okay, if I need to find out an answer, what are the factors I need to consider? So for the ones who have already done the assignment, you already have a content in hand. You have the basic foundation element into it. You go through to find out what are those elements, or in the conceptual framework that I've collected, something that I agree with or disagree with. Are you with me? Can you do that with one of the identified assignment for tomorrow? Keep that in mind. Something that you've already done in your previous semester. I want something that you've already done. I'm sure you're able to dig up something. So I don't want you to go back to your foundational research. Keep that in mind, because the research paper, the article permits you to have that opinion. Once you have drawn out that, the other thing we're going to look at is, can we look at a student-led, peer-reviewed point? Okay? So you have to look at if it permits you or any specific student-led journal that you can target at. It can be a contemporary issue journal. It can be subject-specific journal. It can be any journal that can or maybe fit into your argument, right? Now, once that you identify the journal and you have your subject matter, now it's about getting or tweaking the material you have in hand into something that can be published. Okay? That is what we're going to look at now. I don't want you to finish doing all of this by tomorrow. That's impossible. But what we're going to look at is, there are three ways in which you can generally structure a paper. Okay? So imagine I already have a paper on, let's say, critical analysis of CSR in India with reference to foreign countries. Okay, let's take that for instance. Now, when I'm going to look at, I'm presuming that's a done paper, right? Now, when I'm looking at that paper, I would see that I've collected all components of content relating to CSR in India, and maybe take one or two countries which mandate CSR as an element. Now, once I've put in CSR element, one of the thing about India that you would notice is CSR is so large sector company with 1,000 or 1,500 crores above, where you have a mandatory requirement of 2%. Now you would notice that, and I'm just giving you a hypothetical situation, okay? You see that that specific provision is not actively invoked, and it's important that the threshold be reduced, because you see large scale of now number of industries lying is between say 500 crores to 1,000 crores to ensure an active impact of CSR. So while you have read through these content and literature, as a person who have read through the subject, you see that there's something missing. You agree with me? Whoever is done on CSR? Now I want Venkatesh Marela.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you face anything that, now that you've done on CSR and foreign countries in this element, did you find anything different in the way India's CSR is structured, how it functions? What was the difference that you noticed?
Yeah, so actually it's a mandate under Section 135 of Companies Act. So when the year 2013, it was mandated. Coming to Western countries in terms of financial aspects only, because as the Western countries have been more developed and industries have also been well established there. So in terms of that, the CSR is more progressive over there compared to India, to my knowledge. And yeah.
So when you did this, okay, I'm just taking an example from you, all right. When you did this, did you, while you were reading through different examples, different countries from your experience, what did you find some places which India could perform well, taking in inspiration? I wouldn't say compare, inspiration from other countries?
India is more specifically drawn towards Western states, especially Maharashtra, Gujarat. Whereas coming to northeastern states, it is not that much applicable, as the industries or the companies were not established well in the northeastern states.
Beautiful. Did you get this published?
Actually, it's my dissertation topic in my master's, and I have got published in the state university level. I'm in a college.
Now, my question would be, how did you come down to this conclusion that impact in the western side versus impact in the east is different? How did you choose these states?
By referring to the online website, even the CS, the Corporate Social Responsibility website, and Ministry of Corporate websites have clearly furnished the information that the companies in the western states, in comparison to the South India or Northeast states, is much more developed and well established.
Okay, so we are on the presumption, you're on the, from the document, the official document that you've gathered, they're on the presumption about the impact or the established nature of companies in the West and the East, and you want to see how it's impacted from both the sides, and to bifurcate the difference and why does such a difference exist within the law, implementation of law in India itself, right? So when we are making that distinction and you want to showcase this distinction to tell, let's say we always call India as a mini Europe, right? I mean a version of Europe, right? So when you are drawing out the distinction to say the same legal provision implement differently because of these factors, and you want to communicate this to an outside person who is not within the legal framework, or maybe from a person who is in compliance, what we're trying to do is, you're trying to establish certain parameters based on which you would come down to a conclusion on this distinction. Okay? So when you are trying to translate this to a research paper, even in a dissertation for that matter, this is primarily with a research paper, that you would try to find out that factor element of mandatory requirement of CSR having a threshold, and most of the time the threshold is achieved only by established company. Thereby, because of this correlation, the CSR element varies between these countries. I mean, these two sides. So West, because of the threshold, there's 1,000 crores turnover plus means it's a well-established company, which might, the number of such companies in eastern side would be lower. So in order to make CSR mandatory, I'm just giving an hypothetical situation to say that the state must have a flexibility to alter the threshold to make a mandatory or the element to reduce the turnover of the company. All right, trying to achieve what the purpose of CSR is going to be. I'm just giving you an argument, okay, for the purpose of the let's say translating or converting it into a paper based on information. Now, keeping that in mind, what I would try to do in my initial stage or the first 1,000 words of my article is to establish what my problem is. Because when you have a dissertation, you have, say, 10,000, 25,000 words that you can write in a dissertation. Compared to even in your assignment, you wouldn't have such a lot of words. Where when someone's evaluating CSR, the point would be, see, this is my challenge with CSR. Now, all companies in all areas cannot wait till they are 1,000 or turnover to make CSR mandatory, which is actually defeating the purpose for which CSR was introduced. So that becomes my research problem then. Now I need to find a solution to what can I do about it. For which the second part would be to look at the legal frameworks. Now, national and international, what is, let's say when you look at CSR, human rights and business law, the UNEP documents, UNICITRAL maybe, documents or any of those documents that talks about the CSR element, and look at the legal framework to see how it is placed. How have they defined it? Once I identify, which you have already done, that's why I wanted you to take an existing assignment, because you've already collected those background information. You know what the legal framework is. You already know what the international framework talks about. You've conducted those discussions. Then you will try to find out what are the existing academic writing on this, which means you will look at peer-reviewed or indexed, Scopus indexed journals on this specific subject matter. Once you've identified this specific subject matter, now comes your crucial area. What you would say there is, okay, now I have an overarching research question that I want to answer through my question. Does setting a benchmark of 1,000 crores a year turnover justify the objective of corporate social responsibility? Okay, and just a hypothetical question. Now, what I'm going to write is, let's say that through my existing academic literature, I've seen that it does not serve the purpose. When I say it doesn't serve the purpose, it means that companies, for them to connect to the community, don't necessarily need so much, because they're setting aside a percentage of their profit, even if it's small element. But it's about imposing that obligation or a commitment there, right? So my argument would be, such great threshold defeats the purpose of Section 155 of Companies Act. Are you with me? Now,
Yes.
in order to establish that, I cannot simply come and say. Why would you agree to me? Why would any of you agree to what I'm saying? How I come down to that argument is what makes my paper eligible for article. So what do I do there? I will start looking at different terminology here. I will look at I would look at what is my research objective. What do I mean, or how do I formulate my research objective? How do I put my research question? It can be one or two, which means what is that I want to answer through my question? what is the methodology I'm adopting? And interestingly, something that usually people miss out is that even when you're relying on doctrinal methodology, right, there are technical ways in which you can come out to it. Called as literature mapping, called as case law mapping. In case of your case of Supreme Court bias, you can engage with case law mapping, evaluation of, let's say, thematic analysis. You have these technicalities that can help you substantiate your argument. It's like a filter system that you set in place to tell the readers that it is not randomly drawn. Remember the word, but systematically and scientifically understood. Are you with me? Once that element is done, you are drawing out a conclusion of finding of your part, which also you already have. And once that finding is set out, you have suggestions that you can put forward, which are not layman's language. That is what distinguishes a legal research writing from a blog or a layman content. Are you with me? So that tweaking is what we need to do. Are you with me? Oops, sorry. Yeah. Now, this is one of the standard methodologies that you can go by. The second element that we will look at is, this is something that Scopus papers look at. Now, the element here is, you've identified an area. You would have main two portion of introduction and conclusion. Your introduction element becomes important to state your statement of issue, as in what is your research problem, what is it your problem is trying to solve. And again, I would highlight the element of, did I go into thematic analysis? Because this primarily focuses on thematic analysis. Yes, yes, I can go back. I will also share the slides with you. I will also share the slide with you. Yes? Now, what you do here is, you start focusing on your suggestions. See, as you've read through, right, when you read through your assignments, you worked around your assignments, you must have felt like, there's some parts that just need some change. As a person you are, you would have felt that. Now, you list out those suggestions that you want. Then you start back calculating them. And under those suggestions, are you with me? You start putting in content, conceptually, evaluate literatures into it. Okay? Now, once that element is done, what happens here is, each of this will have a storyline that you're going to follow. Okay? Let me tell you this. Sometimes it can start going above your head, but this is a process. It's an exercise that you have to go through. Okay? This is not something that you can do it overnight. This is where you have to sit with this assignment, look at each element of methodology, start tweeting your paper. Are you with me? All right? Then the element, anyone's engaged with empirical legal articles? Not yet? Not yet. Okay. Sri Priya, yes. Yes, you will get this as PDF. Sri Priya, I would have to go back and see what your topic is. Sri Priya, did you share your topic here? Yeah. Handicraft heritage, exploring the impact of GI. Sri Priya, I would personally suggest a qualitative research, and if possible, ethnography. Now, because you have an option about, do you have Bundi brass copper metal registration, and it's which state are you connecting with? I'm sorry, I'm not.
Ma'am, I'm from Andhra Pradesh.
So, of course, in that specific artisans, right? Ethnography would be a brilliant way to have your research published. Where I don't have time to discuss this in detail, but of course, ethnography is something that we discuss in the course about how do you record ethnography research and stuff. Where you interact with interviews and don't stop with interviews. You're observing their patterns. You're observing the way they interact with engaging, the artisans engaging with this metal, and how, in fact, when you look at these GIs, right, it has a lot of cultural element to it. Jurisdictionally, culturally, the transition of information, your ancestral understanding, all of that brings in its value. So it's not something that you can touch and tangible element that you're talking about. And when you say culture, there's an emotional element involved in it, right? So, and most of them wouldn't know about these rights. And they would be, that's hands down information that's translated. And when you understand them, you can engage with ethnography to say, I had time or I spent 3 months with the artisans to understand their plight for not having registered with this. So it could be the turnover between artisans who knew the trade, who were educated, who were uneducated, who translated the skills into professional skills. Otherwise, you observe patterns to record them and say that my experience based on these parameters, predefined semi-question as I translated the work to these findings. Did it give you some kind of insights?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, actually.
It's something I understand, in the short time I won't be able to discuss it all, but something to start off with.
Yes, ma'am.
Look at, yeah.
As you said, actually, I have been with them. I have taken the interview and I have already talked about their ancestral thing, and it was totally raised up by a woman. And it was totally a work of a woman who rises the work from a, she's actually a, it was a patriarchal society, we actually know that. But she was the lady who has done everything, and she was also got published in the local school government's social textbook itself. So I wanted to publish it, but so I couldn't because of some kind of resources.
This is something. Please use the word ethnography. Of course, if you get a chance to attend the course, please do. See how you can use the right words in it. Because this is definitely a Scopus element. Okay? This is definitely something, interestingly, like the Utrecht Law Review, Erasmus Law Review, this site, they are very keen on. So please make, because this is this is something not just a legal, this is social legal research. So get the right words in, because when it comes to an academic writing, how you distinguish from simply layman resting out a newspaper article is what? These terminology. See, ultimately, let me tell you, ask you all lawyers here, what gets you money? Everybody can argue, right? What gets you all money? It's the words used in the statute. It's the way you as a lawyer interpreting these words. That only you can interpret the way you understand. It's the same way when it goes to research. To understand, for the academic field to take it in the same sense that you have understood, right? Your ethnographic experience. That when you say that I'm recording an ethnographic experience based on the case study of the, of a widget, or, these terminologies used like widget and semi-structured interviews that led to, where you had interviews transcribed using, and something, maybe something that I touch upon in the class is also something called as coding. If not coding, don't, that might be a little heavy, but use that. And mark my words, this is a beautiful element, the unique experience that you carry that definitely target for a Scopus journal. Springer. I mean, there's so many journals who love to take your work. Just make sure you get these right terms involved, okay? I'm trying to think about journals. I know for a fact that Erasmus and Utrecht would have it. There's so many of these Asian study journals that has a look into it. But yeah, maybe you can something that you can look at. Yeah, that's one part of it. Anyone else? Because yeah. Now, once you start using this in the right sense, we can see that it starts taking shape. Okay? I'm going to share this document with you. These are two of my articles that's put in. One is my article, one is my colleague's article. What you can take as a sample. These are in Scopus Index journals. This would give you an example of how these articles are done. So this will give you an example of the role in which, if you look at it, these are just logical arguments that's put forward. But what made a distinction in these articles on its writing is the methodology element to it. And of course, then we're looking at the writing process. Again, I would want you to put this as a checklist. Screenshot, I'm sending this to you. When you sit down with your assignment today, see if you can get maximum information about that. Don't put in any extra effort. Put in 45 minutes of your time. Keep these things that I've told you in head. See if you can put a checklist. Do I have a topic? Do I have a point that I want to voice? I as a person. Ria, Sri Priya, Venkatesh, Aditya, Kautsav, all of you individually has to voice. Do I have some kind of argument that I want to put across? Have I done some basic material? What do I do to tweet it? Are you with me? Yes? Then we come, I'm not going to go into this now. We're going to come to that tomorrow, okay, about using Zotero. We're going to work on Zotero. How are you going to use all of these tools? Once you have got it structured, streamlined, we're going to try and submit it. Are you with me? So you have some things that we can start considering to look at these elements there. Yeah? So can I have all of you to go through your work? I will break, let me see. Because come on, I can understand, after your working day. Okay. See whatever you can think about. Don't draw a full outline, that's fine. Just try to put out your argument there. If I have to justify argument, what all points would you take up as your argument? I don't want a completely streamlined argument. Are you with me? Okay. But all I want to see is what all can you think through. Okay. Then I will have a surprise element for all of you, a surprise offer for all of you tomorrow. That's a suspense element. So I'll see you all tomorrow. Once you come up with all of this, I'll see you tomorrow. Yeah?
Ma'am, can
All
you share
right.
the document?
I will share that right away. Right away.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. And I hope all of you start working on, maybe I will also share 2-3 reading materials for you to start looking at. Okay? Yeah? Perfect. Then I think I will all see you tomorrow. Don't forget the surprise. A surprise for you. Bye.
Thank you, ma'am. Bye, ma'am.
Thank you. See you. Bye-bye. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am.